Okay, welcome to Monster Quads, and what we have here is the QAV-X Charpu quad, and this is a 3mm version. This is going to be our next build. We'll be building it with a Revo flight controller, quad Revo, and ROSD, some XM20s. I like these, are really small, and they should be able to handle. And I have the ZMX 3000 2300 kV 2206 blue top motors. So, and we just opened up this QAV-X, and you can see the parts that it comes with. Let's see, here's the motor screws, it's coming with it, some stickers and some straps. This frame is pretty simple. Here's a 3mm frame. I know Charpu himself has recently been flying the 4mm frame, but I want to try to get as light as possible. I don't have a scale with me just yet, but we'll do an all-up weight after we're done. But this thing is ultra thin, but I think it's going to be, because it's small enough, I think it's going to be relatively durable. I mean, here's the top plate, and looks like this is for like the camera mount, so it's got a built-in camera mount. So next up we'll have the build. Okay, here we have the QAV-X all done up and finished. Nice new ZMX 2206, 2600, 2300 kV motors. I do like the design. It's nice and light. It's very well thought out and put together. I really want to compare it to what I think is his cousin design, which is the SmackFPV Racer, SRacer. And they have some pluses and minuses and differences, but if you can see that their configuration as an X is very similar and very close to the same size millimeter, same 3mm bottom plate on both. With the QAV-X, this is a bottom-mounted LiPo, and with the SRacer, it is a top-mounted LiPo. So comparing the LiPos, I do actually prefer the way a bottom-mounted LiPo actually flies, because the center of gravity is down below. The reason why the SRacer is not a bottom-mounted LiPo is because it sits on top of an SRacer or an S launch pad. So when you push forward on the pitch stick and it allows it to pitch forward, it just holds it in place there. It holds it at an angle, so get ready, set, go, and you're already flying in a forward position, already angled, coming right off the launch pad, which I think is a fantastic design. And both of these have some great designs. The QAV-X is a little bit more compact, and the SRacer is a little bit more open from front to back. They made a nice little addition to the QAV-X, and that is like a bottom plate to protect the LiPo off of landings and crashes. They don't have this XT60 connector is nicely positioned. It just comes directly off the PDB and is short enough where it just plugs right in really nicely and stays out of the way of all the props, etc., because it is bottom mounted, and it's easier to hide all the wires, all the battery wires away from the props. Normally they show pictures of the receiver sitting directly under this XT60 connector and all of that tied down, whereas I actually have it right here above my flight controller, right there at the pivot point of the camera. I am using a Crossfire micro receiver, so it's a little bit easier to do that. It is slender, and there is room for that there. So there's a difference in between my build and some of you guys who are probably using some of those larger or squarer receivers with different types of antennas. Now, I do like the XT60 connector of the SRacer because when it's nice and secure there, and that's what keeps it out of the way of all props, etc. Nothing's flailing around, and that's nice and secure there. Even if you eject this battery, chances are this won't even eject either. It'll stay intact. So that's a nice feature from the SRacer, is this actually CNC mounted battery XT60 connector holder. Talk about the cameras and the camera mounts. This has a nice system where there's a high HD camera mount and the FPV camera mount all in one. This is one mechanism that sits there, that sandwiches and holds it tight together. It is pretty snug. It's engineered very, very well. There is some holes for straps to put your GoPro right up top, and it will sit just like this in a 30-degree angle. It is not adjustable unless you want to put something underneath and maybe pull it forward or back or lay it further back. You know, I do like the way this sits right in the middle, in the center of gravity of things, and it's still, everything's out of the way and out of view of each other. Really, really nice design here. There's not much for protection, and this is a race frame, which is why it's definitely 3mm, try to save a little bit of weight. And I don't know, so a lot of people are concerned about the way the camera sticks out there with very little protection, but honestly, if you hit any FPV quad the wrong way with enough force, you're going to do some damage. And I don't think that that's a problem here. This is a nice design. It's going to be really hard to really hit it a certain way to smack it, but I'm sure it can happen. I mean, sure, you can hit a pole straight on without hitting any of the arms or any of the bodies and smack that up pretty good. I mean, the same thing can happen to your GoPro, because your GoPro is laying out there too. Now, I don't have, and the reason why I bought this was for the the camera mount. The camera mount on the SRacer is really, really nice. There's a separate plate that bolts on, that's carbon fiber, that bolts onto the back, and then there is a sort of, I'm going to call it a circular slide mechanism that you can see. There's a screw right here, and there's a lock nut on the back, and this thing it has the ability to go straight up and back, as well as it rides along this kind of arc of a rail, so it gets you pretty much unlimited positioning for this FPV camera mount. It's really nice because it's really snug. That thing is not falling off. It is not, if you land or hit something, it's not going to lose its angle like this might. This is pretty much friction, the friction from the carbon fiber holding it together, and the two standard screws that are those little tiny screws that are eventually going to get it stripped, etc. I can see myself using some kind of adhesive, replacing that. I don't know. Everybody's done something different and try to keep that FPV cam from flopping the wind that's just being held by those two little tiny screws. So I think the SRacer's FPV cam is fantastic and unbelievable. But I can't say much about the HD camera mount, because I know they make a CNC camera mount. There's two holes up front here, and it'll sits up and holds a bracket where it holds suspended here your GoPro. What do I think about it? I don't know. I've seen it. I wanted one. It's not available yet, and maybe I'll give a separate review on that. What I do not like about the, since the HD camera sits up here in front of the battery, you're going to have to maneuver your battery back a little bit, and there's really not much. First of all, I mean, you're hanging on the front end of this. It's not going anywhere with this nice and snug here plugged in. It's not going to go anywhere. I don't like the idea of not having it, having the battery strap right smack in the center where it holds it more securely. They're telling me at SmackFPV and the people that have flown this that it's not much of an issue, that it isn't an issue, but it just really concerns me a little bit. And I think the center of gravity is nicely done here with battery center of gravity. Battery is going to be heaviest, and your HD cam is going to be heaviest, so it's going to sit up front and up in middle here, where everything is just it's just distributed on the same plane here on the SRacer. Again, I'm just nitpicking, but I'm showing you a couple of differences that might help you make a decision if you're thinking about getting an SRacer or the QAV-X. Everything else is mounted differently here, where the VTX is up top and it's here at the bottom. I don't see any issues with either or. They're both accessible. This does have plenty of room for whatever you have or whatever you want to add. You can see there's plenty of room from front to back, where you have to be real strategic on how, let's say, you're going to put your receiver in there, like mine is right there up front. But I could have easily put it longitudinally or sideways underneath this connector, just like they show. And some other few ideas. How do they fly? They both are very light. They are both very agile. They both are very fast, especially with these ZMX motors. I wish I didn't go with these little bees, because they are huge. They're as big as that arm there at 30 amps. With this, I actually went backwards and went to the tried and true proven DYS 20 amp Bell Heli S, or Bell Heli ESCs, not S. And you know, they're smaller, lighter, and fit really nice on these arms. The arms on the QAV-X are not as wide as these things. You see how huge these arms are on the SRacer. So ultimately, I think that the SRacer probably has, you know, these tabs aren't much of an issue. They're pretty strong. They're small. So it's not like you're going to break those off. But I mean, these arms look pretty strong and look pretty wide. These might be a little bit weaker. You know, if you're really concerned, they do make a 4mm frame in the QAV-X, as well as, I believe they're talking about, or I heard through the grapevine, there might be a 4mm SRacer bottom plate. And if you wait shortly, I'll have some pictures at the end of this showing the all-up weight minus the lipo on my QAV-X versus my SRacer build. And they're both very similarly built. And I'm sure you'll find that they fly very, very similar with and without the GoPros.